Welcome back. This is the continuation of the tile editor, level editor that we were working on in the last video. And to give you a really quick recap, I wanted to create a map editor where we could save and load the created maps. And it's going to read from a folder to find a bunch of tiles that I drew. And then it's going to display those tiles in a viewport. And we can click in the viewport to place and erase tiles. And we can save and load levels to disk so we can actually keep working on different sections of a game, for example. I'm at the stage where I need to start adding interactivity. And you can see last time we created some tiles, we added them to a list view, we designed how our level will look like. I'll recap that in a bit. And then we were able to display that. And this is what the app looks like right now. So it's my tile editor, has the tiles from the folder, and it displays this little level. The way the level is made up is we have a level, and every entry in the dictionary as a key, which is the position of the tile, and it has a list of tile names, and it will find the file with that name and then draw that image at this position. We've made the assumption that every tile will be 32 pixels in size. We've added the ability to add multiple tiles, images to one tile. So we could stack flowers on top of grass, for example. I don't have those yet, but I might add them later. Alright, so I've created this level renderer widget, and I want to add interactivity on top of that. There are two ways to do that. We could add mouse events in this widget. Actually, there's three ways to do that. We could add mouse events inside of this widget to detect clicks and such. We could subclass it and add mouse events to a specialization of the renderer that is an interactive renderer or an editor. Or we could use something called the event filter. So you can create a custom class that can handle events for another widget, and then you can couple them together. I kind of like that decoupled nature, but in this case, I think I'm going to subclass because it achieves the same thing in a less confusing way. So I'm going to create a class, and it's not going to be level renderer. It's going to subclass level renderer, and it's going to be level editor. And the level editor will do all the things that the level renderer does. Will have that tile size. It will know about the level and the tiles, and it will be able to draw them or automatically draw them already. So really all we want to do is we want to add a mouse press event, a mouse move event, and a mouse release event. And yeah, maybe we want to add some state in startup. So we'll add an init, and we'll call the base class, and the base class needs our level and our tiles. So we'll add those arguments and forward them. Then we'll add some empty events for now. And what I want to do when I press is I want to either paint or erase, and I want to figure out what I'm painting if I'm painting. And I want to, when moving, I want to keep painting all of these styles all the time. And when releasing, I want to stop painting. So I'm gonna store like is painting, I guess, or maybe just tile to paint, for example. That's gonna be none. And then when we press the mouse, we can say, and maybe just say is drawing right now. Is false. So when we press the mouse, we'll say is drawing equals true. And then we can get the event.button, and then if that is the 0 button, paint tiles, else erase tiles. And I can say the tile to paint is none when erasing. That's a good analogy, right? We're painting nothing. And else we will need the currently selected tile. So the tiles actually is a data model, but we also need the tile selection model. I notice I'm being a little bit inconsistent with my naming. I've been coding in two different styles in two different projects, so it's a little bit messy today. But you know, let's at least keep this consistent and maybe fix this later. So yeah, that would be the active index, I think. Qt item selection model. Let's just Google this real quick because I don't exactly remember how to get the current index. Okay, yeah, we have current index. That's a Q model index, so we can use that. And we can actually resolve this a little bit further. So current equals, and then We could even say current could get the current first, and then if there is no current index, we don't paint. This should have a isValid function. If not current.isValid, then we return. So I'm not sure if we start up with a valid selection, and I don't want to accidentally paint nothing or have errors happen. So avoid painting null. Why did it type false? So we get the tile to paint from the current model index. So we have our tiles.item, maybe it's item from index actually, use standard item model, list all item from index. Yeah, there we go. Item from index. That gives us an item, and we want the name that we're going to store inside of the level. So that's just going to be the text on the item. Very, very easy. Right, so this sets us up for drawing. What I like to do is also call mouse move event here at the end of it all, because that way when we click without moving the mouse, we will still execute this function at least once, and then this function will actually draw for us. So we'll do all the drawing here without any duplication of code. That does imply that the event is going to be either a press event or a move event. And I believe in for example, C++, you cannot do that. So this is a really nice feature of Python, that we can just forward this event. And as long as you don't use features specific to the move event inside of the move event, but just generic mouse event features, then we're good to go. And we will use mouse event features because we can get the X coordinate where the mouse is and the Y coordinate. And we can get our tile size and just divide by that to figure out which tile we're currently aiming at. We'll use this floor division again, so we get a whole number. So this is the X that we're painting at, this is the Y that we're painting at. One bit of difficulty I hadn't really thought about is that, well, actually, let me, how am I going to explain this? Basically, when I click, it will paint a tile, but then when I move across that tile, I get a lot of mouse move events, so we cannot keep adding tiles to the list. So I think what I want to do is check what is there, and if the last tile is the same as the tile I'm painting, I just don't paint. And that way I can still stack items on top of the tile. I'm not just overwriting the tile that is there, I'm adding to the list, if that makes sense. But if I already did that, I'm going to try and detect that I already did that. So I cannot add two grass tiles in the same place because there's already grass there. So let's first get the level, current level, and get the tile at that index. We can actually not call get, but set default. What set default does is it gets the list at this index, and if that doesn't exist, it's going to put this list, this new list at that index, and then return that one. So we will always get a list here. And that list is also referenced by the tile, so we don't have to reinsert it later. Like this magically gives us a list that we can edit, and it's editing the level in place. We just have this one function to either get or set the list that we want to edit. And then if the tile to paint is none, then I think we want to just pop the tail. And else we want to say if the images, well, first if we have images, and the last image is equal to the tile to paint. So that's what I just explained. Like if I'm painting the same tile, I'm just gonna do nothing. This should paint and paint. Right, so this is what I want to do. And because this image is a list inside of the level, it's not being copied or anything. We're directly editing the level here. That's a little bit confusing about lists and classes in Python, I think, because if we were to use a tuple or indeed a string, then you cannot just edit that string. But if you have a list, then that list is it's not copied. We share the list with each other. So the level has a reference to the list. And my variable name images is also a reference to the same list. It's not being copied. And that's why we don't have to reinsert these images back into the current level, because they're already borrowed from the current level. All right. Yeah, that should work. And then last, I guess I'll just set drawing to false, and that should do it. And now, of course, I need to use the level editor instead of the level renderer all the way over here. And then let's see, what did I break? We need the selection model. So we have that list view, and it will have a selection model. So if I click on grass, it does not work. So sad. Yeah, first of all, it was erasing. I don't know why. Let's check print event button. And let's indeed set drawing to true only if we're actually painting something. So I'm pretty sure that this is left button. I don't know what that means. It's not that apparently. Either the left button. Okay, let's do that. All right. Let's print the current index. So we start. Oh, we already have a current index, it seems. Oh, haha! I know what we need to do. So because we are doing this custom painting, normally you don't really encounter this because you set some data and Qt will update itself. Because we're doing custom painting, Qt doesn't know when to paint because it doesn't know what we're basing our painting on. We're basing our painting on the level. And so whenever we change the level by changing these images, we need to say self.repaint because that makes sure that the changes to the level are actually displayed immediately on the screen. So now we can paint grass and we can erase grass. And yeah, there should be only one tile there. It's kind of hard to debug, but I know if I click 10 times and right click once, it should only erase one of the grass tiles. So I knew there was only one grass tile in that place. One thing that is kind of awkward, I guess, is if I put road on water, the water's going to stay underneath, even though it fully occludes it. But because we want to support images with transparency, I'm not going to check for that because I can't guarantee that. We would have to have some kind of naming convention saying, you know, these styles are always at the bottom of the list. So sometimes we paint only in index 0, and sometimes we do the smart painting where we add stuff on top of each other. But that's a level of complexity I'm not willing to do today. So I'll just leave it at that. So that finishes off that item, and that was, I think, the most complex one. Actually, we did these two in one. They were kind of dependent on each other. Now let's save and load stuff. In our main window, you know, we build the interface. We can also add a menu. So we set a menu bar. Self.set menu bar. We can add a file menu by saying add menu file. Use the ampersand if you're familiar with hotkeys. Sometimes you can hold Alt and then press F, for example, and then it opens the file menu. And so by putting the ampersand, you say this character is going to be the one that you can press with Alt, together with Alt as a hotkey to open that menu. So if ampersand F IL and ampersand E did will create edit, and then Alt E will open the edit window like that. Let's see file menu, and then that will have a add action. Do I say that correct? Add item. It's been a while since I made a menu. Let's just look it up. Qt menu. Menu. Also find cute restaurants in our neighborhood, which is also fine. But not what we're looking for. Add item. No. Add. Oh, you just put some text. Okay. It is add action. And then we'll put ampersand save. And then the save action is this. And put ampersand load. And the or open, I guess. It's the usual terminology. Like that. And then we can say what's a normal convention, at least on Windows. If you put 3 dots, it will actually imply that this is not a button that does something immediately. It will come up with a pop-up. So I'm just going to follow that convention. make it consistent with what people know. I'm going to add a shortcut, set shortcut key sequence dot save. There's a few predefined key sequences that automatically use the right shortcut on the right operating system. You can also just write text like Ctrl+S, but then, for example, if you open this app on Mac, it might be confusing because then it's not Command.S. So this guarantees that the right shortcut is used on the right platform, which is very nice. And then, of course, we have to have the trigger connections to self.save and self.open. And then we can have save and open. And actually, I'm going to backpedal a little bit and just say, let's be lazy today and not deal with pop-ups where you select a file and a folder where to save. We're just going to save in a hard-coded file right now because that is the point. And Qt file menus is not the point I want to demonstrate today. So we have our level, which is a global variable. Maybe that wasn't the best decision. I'll fix that later. And it has, I'm going to use JSON, by the way, which is a library that we can use to save Python objects to disk. But it has some constraints, notably the key in a dictionary has to be a string. So I'm going to create a string out of this in some way. And well, we have whole numbers, they're fairly limited, so we can just say save data equals dictionary for key value in level.items. We can say save data key equals value. That would be a copy. So we're going to say %d, %d, %key. So we're going to take the key, which is a tuple of x and y. We're going to format it as two numbers with an underscore in between them. So every entry in the table will just be a string with an underscore as separator. It's going to be very easy to convert back to a tuple with two numbers when we're loading. And then we can say with open level.json, which is opens the file handle. We have to open it for writing as file handle. JSON.dump. We dump our save data into this file handle. That's all it is to save, which is very, very nice. JSON is very helpful with that. If you have more complex data, like a custom class inside of a dictionary, that's not going to work. You have to use simple Python data types like lists and tuples and strings and floats. But other than that, it's very convenient for that small scope that we have right here. And then we have the opposite, where we can open the file for reading. And if you don't know this with statement, what it basically does is it's going to open the file. It's going to assign it to this variable right here. So it's kind of an equal sign, but the other way around, you know. But the benefit of it is that if we have an error anywhere in the system, with actually has a context. So when we with open, what with says, no matter what happens, we're going to close the file again after. So it's a very clean way to edit files and interact with files, because it won't accidentally keep a lock on the file in the operating system after a program crashes or had a exception. So you just make sure that that file is released properly by your program. And if you've ever worked with or tried to delete a file and then Windows said like, oh, this file is in use, you cannot delete it, you might be familiar with that. And that's because an application might have crashed and has kept a lock on that file, and you have to basically restart Windows to get access to your file again. And this pattern just avoids that altogether. It's just a very user-friendly way of doing things. Anyway, we have JSON.load, and it gets our load data. I guess it's the same as we put in the save data here. And then we can say level.clear, which empties the current level. We can say for key value pair in load data.items. We can say level key equals value. Of course, that key is a string now, so we're gonna split the string by underscore. That gives us an x and a y as a string. So we're gonna cast those two to integers, and that will be our key. And that should just rebuild the level. Since we are editing the level, we have to call self.repaint, the same as we had when interacting with the level in different ways. But yeah, that should be it, really. So I can save this out, and I should get a level.json. It's going to be flat, but in PyCharm you can press Ctrl Alt L and it just unpacks that in a slightly more readable format. And you can see at 0, 0 we have grass, at 1, 0 we have water. Now what did we hardcode at the start? At 0, 0 we have grass, at 1, 0 we have water. So I can change this around a bit, and then I can say open, and it should be, well, I guess it had an exception. Open is not working today. Oh, yes, I was calling save and load at the same time in the save button, and I was doing nothing with the load button. So if I just do this, and then I press open, it's going to discard those changes. It's going to load what was on the disk. And if I do this and save it, and I restart my app, it has the hard-coded map, and then if I press open, it's going to load my map from the file with the changes that I made. So really, that's all it is. And now let's just clean this up real quick. Where, let's say, who's going to own the level? I guess we can just say initialize the level, and we can also say it has to be self.level then. It's going to be empty because now we can edit it, we can save it, we can load it. We don't need this hard-coded level anymore. We'll fix these errors where we reference the wrong variable. And then one thing we could do is call open immediately. So here we could just say self.open, and it will load whatever was on disk. Load the last level. Save. Right. That's a little bit risky because this file might actually not exist. And that same goes for the open button. So let's just check if was the path that exists level. If not, then let's do nothing. All right, we missed one here. This is got self.tiles. Wait, what? Not self current level. There we go. So this opens whatever we had on disk. So I can close it without saving, restart it. We have this. Erase some stuff and save it. Close it. Open it. It's persistent now. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I want to do some optimization. I want to add some new features like transparent assets stack. I want to add larger assets like trees are like their base on the tile. That's going to be next video, I think. I think it's a nice, cute little app. File dialogues, stuff like that. Just that is polish and feature creep, and just some fun I would like to have with this. That yeah, I'll definitely be sharing as well. All right, I hope this was informative. I hope you learned something about JSON and how it's very easy to interact with files and Python. Because really, this was not a lot of code. And admittedly, I didn't make very complicated data, but even then, you can always design your data in a simpler way to make it serializable. Or you can have a function that translates your data to something that JSON can actually save to disk. So it's not a lot of work. Just like we had to translate the keys, that functionality would just grow a little bit more complex if you use more complex data. All right, thank you for watching.